The 9th of April, 1940. Under the code name Operation Weserübung, Nazi Germany invades Denmark and Norway. Strategically, Denmark's importance to Germany is as a staging area for operations in Norway. In Norway, Germany seeks to secure naval bases for use against the British fleet in the North Sea, and to guarantee vital iron ore shipments from neutral Sweden, on which Nazi Germany is dependent. While the invasion of Denmark lasts less than 6 hours and is the shortest military campaign conducted by the Germans during the war, Norway surrenders to Germany only after 2 months, on the 10th of June, 1940. During the German occupation of Norway, the Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, plays a key role in maintaining control and terrorizing the local population. One of its most dangerous men is a German SS officer who will become notorious for the torture and murder of many members of the Norwegian resistance movement. His name is Siegfried Fehmer. Siegfried Wolfgang Fehmer was born on the 10th of January 1911 in Munich, then part of the German Empire. He grew up with Baltic German parents, and his father held Russian citizenship. During the First World War, which lasted from the 28th of July 1914 until the 11th of November 1918, the family lived in Moscow, where Fehmer's father worked as a civil engineer. As a 6-year-old in 1917, Fehmer experienced the Russian Revolution up close, with street battles, long periods hiding in the basement, and food shortages. For the rest of his life, Fehmer disliked anything that reminded him of his time in Moscow. In 1918, his family relocated to Berlin and gained German citizenship. In 1930, while studying law at Friedrich Wilhelm University in Berlin, Fehmer joined the Nazi Party. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. The same year, Fehmer completed his law degree and in April 1934 married Annie Wille. Fehmer was not only a brilliant student, but also kept himself in great shape. In his spare time, he practiced boxing and was even a sparring partner for Ernst Pistula, who had won a silver medal in the 1928 Olympics in Amsterdam. In 1934, an acquaintance in the secret police recommended Fehmer to Reinhard Heydrich, the head of the Gestapo, who was impressed with Fehmer's memory for faces and voices. Heydrich showed his new colleague the special features of his office at Gestapo headquarters in Berlin, which included hidden microphones in the walls and lamps, and a desk with a built-in automatic weapon triggered by pressing a button. Fehmer started his new career dealing with communist cases, and over time held various positions within the organization, gaining experience in counterintelligence. From 1937 to 1939, he served in Köslin, now known as Koszalin, in northwestern Poland, as the head of German counterintelligence, eventually reaching the rank of SS captain. The Second World War began on the 1st of September 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. In April 1940, Fehmer was sent to a course at a police school, where he was among the only 23 who passed the exam and was informed he would be stationed in Oslo, the capital of Norway. At the start of World War II, in 1939, Norway, like all of Scandinavia, gained new strategic importance for Germany. Erich Raeder, head of the German Navy from 1939 to 1943, was concerned about maintaining German naval access to the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean via naval bases on the Norwegian shoreline. In December 1939, first Raeder, then Hitler, met with Vidkun Quisling, the leader of the Norwegian fascists, who suggested the British were planning to move into Norway for their own strategic needs. Alarmed, Germany began planning Operation Weserübung, the invasion of Denmark and Norway. The German invasion of Norway under General Nikolaus von Falkenhorst began on the 9th of April 1940, and 2 months later, on the 10th of June 1940, Norway fell to Germany. In late April of the same year, Fehmer arrived in Norway, where he worked for the Gestapo and was tasked with suppressing the Norwegian resistance which during World War II played a crucial role in opposing Nazi occupation. Following the invasion, a diverse range of resistance activities emerged, including both organized groups and spontaneous civilian efforts. One of the most prominent organizations was Milorg, the military branch of the Norwegian resistance, which coordinated armed resistance and sabotage operations. Milorg's activities ranged from intelligence gathering and smuggling supplies to conducting guerrilla warfare and executing targeted sabotage missions against German infrastructure. Civilian efforts also played a significant role, engaging in non-violent resistance such as spreading underground newspapers, organizing strikes, and maintaining communication with the exiled Norwegian government in London. The Norwegian resistance worked closely with the British Special Operations Executive, the SOE, an organization that supported local resistance movements and helped them conduct espionage and sabotage against Axis powers. Notable operations included the heavy water sabotage at the Milorg plant, which hindered German efforts to develop nuclear weapons. The resistance also assisted in the escape of Jews and other persecuted individuals from Norway to neutral Sweden. Despite facing severe repression, including arrests, torture, and executions by the Gestapo, the Norwegian resistance remained resilient. Their efforts significantly disrupted German operations, contributed to Allied intelligence, and bolstered national morale, ultimately playing a vital role in Norway's liberation. Fehmer was not just a common Gestapo officer. He had a vision for Germany's long-term interests and was highly effective in convincing his superiors of his perspective. During the invasion of Norway in 1940, Reinhard Heydrich received permission from Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, to participate in the campaign as a fighter pilot, and was stationed for a time at Kjevik near Kristiansand in southern Norway. While stationed at Kjevik, Heydrich received information that 2 diplomats from the US Embassy in Oslo were to make a stop over there on their way from Bergen, where they had collected courier mail that had arrived by ship. In the officers' mess, also attended by the 2 American diplomats, Heydrich got them drunk and sent them by car to Kristiansand. On the way, they were stopped by 5 armed men who secured the mail and left the diplomats tied up. Heydrich wanted to open the seized mail, but Fehmer helped prevent this, seeing no reason to provoke neutral USA. Soon after the invasion, the Norwegians could not bear to see what was happening to their country. Many of them joined the resistance, and Fehmer quickly became their biggest enemy. He was often seen in Oslo, walking in full uniform on the main street with his shepherd dog. He possessed great personal charm and had several mistresses in Norway. With his seemingly friendly demeanor, Fehmer was adept at getting people to relax and let something slip, at which point his dark side emerged. In January 1941, Himmler visited Norway and requested that the Gestapo introduce enhanced interrogation, which involved the use of physical torture. Fehmer found the instruction justified, but drew up regulations to prevent abuse. It had to be absolutely established in each case that the person being interrogated had actually carried out illegal work of some significance, and that they had information of importance to German interests. Information from an otherwise reliable informant was not sufficient cause to use violence during interrogation, and initially, other interrogation techniques were required to be tried first. Consent from a superior was to be obtained, and Fehmer created application forms for permission to use violence. These forms became fewer over time, as the interrogations often took place at night, making it difficult to get hold of a superior. Fehmer himself did not hesitate to use torture to extract information from Norwegians arrested for participation in or suspicion of resistance activities. His interrogation of the victims shifted between apparent friendliness and pure sadism. In February 1945, Fehmer was promoted to head of the Gestapo's Oslo department and was responsible for the interrogation of several important resistance men and women. Fehmer also led the interrogations of Lauritz Sand, a pioneer of the Norwegian resistance during the Second World War. When the 62-year-old Sand refused to reveal any information about resistance activities, the Gestapo broke his arms and later both his legs. He was then intentionally healed in a hospital, only to be tortured and interrogated by the Nazis again. It is believed that he was the most tortured person in the country and became a symbol of the Norwegian resistance against the Nazi regime. Following the end of the war in Europe, on the 8th of May 1945, Fehmer disguised himself as a German army soldier and mingled with the other German prisoners of war at Hasselmoen camp in Våler, located in the eastern part of Norway. However, he was eventually betrayed and arrested after making a telephone call to a female friend to check on his shepherd dog. During his trial for war crimes, Fehmer attempted to avoid execution by proving that he had managed to help a handful of prisoners, and by presenting himself as a valuable source of information. This included authoring a lengthy report on his activities in Norway, which is now considered one of the best sources on German police activities during the occupation. A nurse who attended him in prison after the war later said that Fehmer believed he would be extradited to the Americans, who were interested in his knowledge of communists. However, he was wrong. Fehmer was convicted of 20 cases of torture, and his criminal record overshadowed his attempts to redeem himself. On the 27th of June 1947, the Supreme Court in Norway sentenced Fehmer to death. Siegfried Fehmer was 37 years old when on the 16th of March 1948, he was executed by firing squad in Oslo, Norway. Ida Nicoline Manus, a member of the Norwegian resistance, described Fehmer as follows after her meeting with him in Oslo in the spring of 1941. There was a man who was so cheerful and helpful. He was exceptionally handsome, with high cheekbones, light hair, and the most wonderful blue eyes. He was a German officer, but I remember thinking that if we had met under other circumstances, he was definitely a man I could have fallen for. Later, I found out who he was. There were no tears shed for Siegfried Fehmer. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.